Hey, Dena here. I made these cookies last year at Christmas time, and they are possibly the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had. Plus, I came up with a method for making them last longer. Really, this video is more about the method than the recipe, but I will share the recipe and show how they were made. Now, I got this recipe from Gretchen's Bakery, which is a website and a YouTube channel, which I highly recommend checking out. For this recipe, I used the alteration she suggested for a softer cookie. If you want a crunchier cookie, you should check out the original recipe. Honestly, you should check out the original recipe either way. Anyway, you will need 2 sticks of butter at room temperature, 2 cups of light brown sugar, though I use dark, not sure what the difference would be to be honest, 1 teaspoon of salt, not sure why it isn't in the shot, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2 large eggs at room temp, a half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 to 3 cups of chocolate chips. I went with semi-sweet because I thought milk chocolate was too sweet when I made it last time. Cream the butter and sugar for about 5 minutes until light and fluffy. I tried using my stick blender with the whisk attachment and it worked okay, but I ended up spraying sugar everywhere in the beginning, so I stopped and did some light mixing with a spoon before continuing, and that helped. But my arm eventually got pretty tired. A single whisk is just too small to handle all of that. I have since gotten a stand mixer, so future baking videos should be better than this one. Either way, don't forget to stop and scrape the sides of the bowl once in a while. At this point, I added the vanilla extract and 1 egg, and then mixed again until it was incorporated before adding the second egg and mixing again. Then I sifted the flour, baking powder, and salt together and added it all before going back to mixing. I mixed with a spoon, but I knew that was going to take a while, so I didn't film very much of it. You're supposed to be careful not to overmix it, but I'm not sure how you'd even be able to tell. Now, the recipe says to add 2 to 3 cups of chocolate chips. I went with 2, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Again, mixing it was a pain, and I'm so glad I have a stand mixer now. I actually got in there with my hands and kneaded it to make sure that the chips were evenly mixed into the dough. So now comes the technique that I came up with. Roll the cookie mixture into balls that are about a heaping tablespoon and place them in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag. If you watched my curry turkey burger video, you probably already know where this is going. Keep them in one layer. They can be touching each other, but only at the edges. If you just lump them all in, you'll end up with a big frozen lump, because you are going to put these in the freezer. Once they're frozen, they don't have to be in a single layer anymore. The whole point of this is that however many cookies you want to eat right now is the number that you're going to bake. I usually go with 6, so it'll be 3 for me and 3 for my hubby. Basically, every time you want cookies, you'll have them fresh baked right out of the oven. I just think that's so much better than baking all of them at once and only having some of them right out of the oven and the rest cold whenever you get around to eating them. It also helps you to not eat too many at once, since there's a bit of effort involved every time, which means they last longer. So it took me a few tries to remember exactly how I did it last year, but here's what I came up with. Get out a pan and line it with foil or parchment paper, and then put the frozen cookie balls on it. Then preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Then go off and do whatever while it preheats. Once it's done preheating, the cookie should still be slightly frozen, but soft enough to flatten with the heel of your hand. Then I grab some leftover chocolate chips and I push several of them into the tops of the cookies, wherever there's room. This is what they do at bakeries to make the cookies look better. Plus, that's extra chocolate, which is never a bad thing. Then I bake them for 15 minutes, and this is about how big they end up being. Now, I don't recall having to flatten them last year, so I'm thinking maybe I made them bigger. When the cookie balls are chilled, they tend to not spread out as much when they bake, which is part of the reason you have to flatten them at first. Otherwise, you end up with cookies that are a bit too round, in my opinion. Either way, they come out nice and soft, and be careful not to burn yourself, but these are so good when they're still warm and the chocolate is still melty. And the best part is that there are more waiting in the freezer for whenever you want to have them again. Anyway, if you end up making these, let me know how they turn out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.